I still remember that morning, the morning that accidentally opened a small crack in my seemingly stable life. A crack big enough for someone, specifically a guy named Aiden, to step through and turn everything inside me upside down. It was a Monday, the first day of the fall semester at Chapel Ridge University. Me, Jake Turner, a sophomore majoring in communications, was trying to grapple with my chaotic inner world and the endlessly cold mornings of Oregon. I always arrived at class early, partly because I was afraid of traffic, and partly because I liked those few minutes of quiet before the lecture hall got noisy. I didn't expect today to be anything but quiet. As soon as I stepped into the classroom, I saw him, a tall guy in an oversized gray hoodie, with brown hair lightly tied back, as if he'd woken up late and only done the bare minimum to look decent enough. But what caught my attention most was his eyes. When I walked past the row of seats, he looked up, and those emerald green eyes glanced at me for just a second. Light enough that no one would notice, but long enough to make my heart skip a beat. "Is this seat taken?" I asked, pointing to the chair next to him. Since when did I take the initiative like that? I had no idea. Aiden shook his head. "No. Go ahead and sit." His voice was deep, a bit husky, like the second note of some song. Not exaggerating. But there was something in that voice that made me want to hear more. I set my laptop down and took a deep breath to stay calm. But damn, I felt like I was nervous because I was sitting next to a handsome stranger. And that made me uncomfortable in a weird way, because I didn't want to fall for someone so easily. A moment later, Aiden turned to look at me and casually asked, "Are you a sophomore?" "Yeah." "And you?" "Freshman." He smiled, his eyes curving into half moons. "This is my first class at this school." I nodded, then realized I was staring at that smile a bit longer than polite. Aiden didn't say anything else, but throughout the class, I could clearly feel his eyes occasionally glancing my way, as if he wanted to say something but wasn't ready yet. By the end of class, as everyone started packing up, Aiden suddenly said, "Jake." I jumped. I hadn't told him my name. "You know my name?" I asked, sounding stupid. Aiden laughed. "Your laptop has a sticker with your name on it." I looked down. Sure enough, I found myself amusing. "Oh, right." Aiden stood up, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. This might be a bit abrupt, but he lowered his head slightly, his voice softening. "Can you show me where the department office is? I'm not familiar with the area yet." I should have just answered casually, but for some reason, it felt like my heart was about to make a much bigger decision than just giving directions. "Sure, I'll take you there." Aiden looked at me, his eyes flickering once. "Thanks." We walked out into the hallway together. The university in early fall always had that cinematic feel. Pale golden sunlight filtering through the trees, just the right amount of chill in the wind, new students excitedly searching for their classes. And me with Aiden, two ordinary American guys, walking side by side as if we were separate from the crowd, quiet but with our own pull. "Have you been here long?" Aiden asked. "Not that long, but long enough to know all the corners of campus." He chuckled. "That's great. You seem like a reliable guy, Jake." Reliable. A simple word, but coming from Aiden's mouth, it made me think of something deeper. As if he wasn't just talking about giving directions. When we reached the department office, Aiden turned to look at me. A light silence hung between us, but it wasn't awkward. It was like two people standing before an invisible door, and all it would take was one touch to change everything. "Jake," Aiden said, "thanks a lot. I really enjoyed talking to you." I tried to keep my voice normal. "No problem." Aiden looked down at his shoes, then back at me. This time, his gaze was clearer, more genuine. "Jake, I know this is weird, but..." I waited. "If you want, I hope today isn't the last time we walk together." I heard my heart. Clearly. Unmistakably. I didn't know where the future would take me and Aiden. But in that moment, I knew one thing. He had touched something in me. A corner I'd always tried to lock away. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to lock it anymore. I don't know what led me to that decision. Maybe Aiden's smile, maybe the warmth in his eyes, or maybe just because it had been so long since I'd let anyone into my real life. But that afternoon, I found myself walking down to the basketball court on the west side of campus, where Aiden had texted he was sitting. As I walked, I wondered why I was doing this. We'd only talked for less than an hour. But the truth was, there was something about Aiden that made me not want to end that morning with just a "see you later." It was like opening the first page of a book I'd been afraid to read for so long, and suddenly I wanted to keep going. Aiden was sitting on the bleachers, his familiar gray hoodie pulled up over one ear, hands clasped in front of him. When I approached, he looked up immediately, as if he'd been waiting for me. "Jake," he smiled. "I thought you wouldn't come." "Why not?" I asked, sitting down next to him. Aiden shrugged, his eyes looking down at the empty court. "I don't know. I tend to make people feel like I'm a bit weird." I tilted my head. "Weird how?" He didn't answer right away. Aiden took a breath, his shoulders tensing slightly before relaxing. "Like I trust people easily. Or like people easily. I know that makes others uncomfortable." Honestly, hearing "like people" made a small click go off in my head, like flipping a switch. I said gently, "All morning, I didn't think you were weird at all." Aiden turned to look at me, and this time his gaze didn't shy away. It was direct, genuine, making me feel like he was seeing through the defenses I'd built up over years. "That's good," Aiden said softly. "I don't want you to think that." We sat in silence for a bit, not an awkward silence, just a pause that made me realize I was comfortable. A state I didn't expect to have with a stranger I'd only known for a few hours. Aiden suddenly chuckled softly. "Jake, honestly, do you often show new people around and then come back to meet them?" "Depends on the person," I replied. You're different." I don't know why I said that, but it was true. Aiden turned his face away, but I could see his ears turning red. "Different in a good way?" "Good." He straightened up a little, then tapped his fingers lightly on the bleacher as if gathering courage. "Jake, I know this is weird, since I'm a freshman and new to the city, but—" He swallowed. "Are you free this afternoon? I'd like to grab a drink with you, if you don't mind." My heart gave another jolt like that morning. I wanted to say no, not because I didn't want to go, but because I didn't know where this would lead. My family, especially my mom, always said that when I was ready to bring someone home, they'd always welcome them. They always assured me that my love didn't need permission or hiding. But me, I'd never brought anyone home. Never let anyone get close enough to make me think about it. Yet someone new like Aiden was making me this flustered. In the end, I answered, "Yeah, I'm free." Aiden's face lit up like a kid getting ice cream. "Really? I know a small coffee shop inside campus." "I know it. The one near the library, right?" Aiden laughed when he heard me say "I." Maybe it made me sound more casual. But he liked it. We walked there. The afternoon wind carried the scent of maple leaves, and the sun cast its last golden light over the campus. Aiden walked closer to me than I expected. Not touching, but close enough for me to feel that small distance. Close enough to make my heart beat faster than normal. We got our drinks and chose a table near the window. Aiden stirred his mocha lightly, then asked, "Jake, do you live with your parents?" "I live alone. My house is about 30 minutes drive from here." I paused for a moment. "My family, they're pretty open. My mom always says, when you have someone important, bring them home. We're always ready." Aiden went quiet for a few seconds. "Sounds warm. What about your family?" Aiden looked down at his coffee. His hand gripped the cup, knuckles turning slightly white. I'm not sure." He exhaled, long and heavy. "My parents don't hate me, but they don't really see me. Especially when Aiden hesitated. "When I like guys." That sentence made me freeze for a second. Not because I was surprised, but because he trusted me enough to say it so quickly. "Are you okay?" I asked. Aiden nodded but didn't look up. "There are things I don't want to tell them anymore. But maybe telling you is different." I breathed slowly. "Why different?" Aiden looked up. His green eyes shimmered slightly in the afternoon light. And for the first time I saw a real vulnerability in them. "Because from this morning, I felt like Jake is someone I can trust. My whole body seemed to pause in an invisible moment. Trust me? I'm not worth trusting. I always keep my distance. Always choose safety. But this is Aiden. He's not like anyone else. I'm glad you think that, I said softly. It's been a while since I felt like talking to someone like this. Aiden smiled. A smile so genuine that it made my heart soften. In that moment, I knew I'd taken a small step beyond the boundaries I'd set for myself. And I knew one more thing, as clear as the sunlight through the glass. Everything between us was just beginning. The coffee shop started getting busier as the sky turned dark. The soft yellow lights made Aiden's face look even softer than usual. I sat across from him, listening to the gentle stirring of his spoon in the cup, and even the hesitant breaths he tried to hold back. Part of me wanted to say something to break that fragile silence, but the other part just wanted to look at him a little longer. Aiden, I started. Are you really okay? I mean, when talking about your family. He looked up, a bit surprised that I brought it back up. I'm fine, Aiden said. But then he smiled, a light but sad smile. No, actually, I'm not that fine. But I'm used to lying like that. That sentence made my heart tighten. Aiden set his cup down, interlacing his fingers. In high school, I tried telling my parents once that I had feelings for a guy in my class. Not love, just like. He sighed. They didn't get angry, didn't yell, just silence. The kind of silence that made me feel like I'd said something shameful. No one should be ashamed for liking someone, I said immediately. Aiden looked at me, his eyes filled with a bit of gratitude. I wish I'd thought that back then. I wanted to reach across the table and hold his hand, just to let Aiden know he wasn't wrong. Not alone. But I held back. I didn't know if that would make things move too fast. Aiden propped his chin on his hand and asked, Jake, what about you? Have you ever brought anyone home? I chuckled lightly. No. Never. Not even one person? No one. Aiden tilted his head. Any reason? I was silent for a while, looking down at the wooden surface of the table. There are parts of my heart I rarely touch. Not because they hurt, but because I'm afraid that when I look at them, I'll realize how lonely I am. I think, I said slowly, I don't want anyone stepping into my home when I'm not ready to step into their life. Aiden blinked. You mean, you're afraid of intimacy? Not that kind of intimacy. I smiled softly. The kind where someone really understands you. Aiden smiled as if he'd just understood something important. Turns out we're more alike than I thought. That feeling of being alike warmed my chest in a way I wasn't used to. Finally, he said, Jake, thanks for telling me. I haven't told much, but you're trying, and I appreciate that. I looked at him for a long time. It seemed like every word Aiden said carried a kindness that I wasn't sure he was even aware of. And I started to realize I didn't want to get to know Aiden in a rush. I wanted to know every little piece of him. It got dark at some point. The shop only had a few groups of students left. Aiden pulled his hoodie back on because the wind through the window made him shiver. Hey, Jake. Aiden called as we stood up to leave the shop. Do you want to walk around the campus lake? Now? Just for a few minutes. I want to be with you a little longer. That sentence was so honest it made me unable to refuse, even though part of me was trying to stay calm. Let's go. The campus lake at night is always beautiful in its own way. The streetlights stretched out in golden streaks reflecting on the still water. The wind carried the scent of wet grass after dew. And us, two guys, walking side by side, not touching but close enough that every step made our heartbeats clearer. Aiden walked slowly and fell back half a step to be closer to me. He looked around, then said softly, Jake, do you feel safe walking next to me? I turned to look. Why ask that? Aiden smiled shyly. I don't know. I'm kind of worried that I'm bothering you. You're not bothering me, I said right away. Really? Aiden paused for a moment. He looked at me with those green eyes under the yellow light, and gaze that made me feel like he was memorizing every feature on my face. I'm so happy, Aiden said. My first time at school, I was really scared. But then, you appeared. I don't know why, but I feel relieved when I'm with you. I felt my heart soften like the calm lake water. Not just because of what he said, but because of the sincerity in every word. Aiden, I said slowly, you don't need to try to be anything. Just be you. Really. He looked at me for a few more seconds, then took a breath and said something I didn't expect. If one day, you're ready to bring someone home. Aiden paused, his voice dropping to half. I hope that person could be me. I stood frozen. My heart beat hard enough that I thought Aiden could hear it. The wind blew through. The streetlights cast down. The world shrank in that moment. Aiden wasn't joking, not flirting, not testing. He really said it from the heart. And I didn't know how to respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because so many emotions surged at once that I couldn't speak. I just breathed slowly and said, Aiden, I don't know what I'm ready for. He nodded lightly, his lips curving into a sad but gentle smile. I don't need you to be ready right now, Aiden said. Just don't push me away. And for the first time that night, I felt my heart tremble. Maybe I didn't want to push him away at all. We continued walking along the edge of the lake. I needed a few minutes for my heart to return to a normal rhythm after Aiden's words. He still walked beside me, silent, not pushing, not trying to ease the tension. Aiden's silence wasn't heavy. It was like the calm before rain, with a strangely gentle wind, enough to make one not afraid but just expectant. I felt like I was standing between two worlds. One side was my own fear, which had always kept me in my safe zone for years. The other was Aiden, a person I'd known for less than a day, but who made me want to cross that boundary. Aiden was stillness, but also a dangerous call to my heart. Honestly, Aiden spoke up, still not looking at me. Do you regret coming to meet me this afternoon? Without hesitation, I replied, no. He nodded slightly, his lips forming a light curve, as if my answer carried more weight than I thought. Jake. Aiden hesitated. I don't want to be the person who makes you feel pressured. I don't want to make you go faster than you're ready. I looked down at the ground, lightly kicking a fallen leaf underfoot. You're not doing that. But sometimes I'm afraid, Aiden continued. I'm afraid I'll like you. More than you want me to like you. My heart tightened. Aiden, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. No one chooses who they like, right? He exhaled, a light smile appearing. That sounds just like Jake. What kind? Kind but messing me up inside. Oh, really? I teased. Yeah. He glanced at me. It's frustrating. I lightly elbowed him, and for the first time since morning, we touched accidentally. Just a light touch, but like a small electric current running down my spine. Aiden paused slightly too, but didn't pull away. Instead, I saw him smile. A smile I knew was just for me. We both walked to the small wooden bridge over the lake. We stopped in the middle, where the yellow lights reflected on the water, scattering into shimmering halos. No one said anything for a few seconds, but the intimacy between us was so thick I could hear my heart echoing in my chest. Jake? Aiden called softly, as if afraid to break the atmosphere. Do you think we met at just the right time? I turned to look at him. Those green eyes were no longer hesitant, just an incredibly serious sincerity. What do you mean? I asked. Aiden leaned his hands on the wooden railing. I just moved to this city. Everything is unfamiliar. I wasn't expecting anything. But then I met you this morning. And everything doesn't seem scary anymore. My heart skipped a beat again. I tried to lower my voice, asking, You're saying I help you feel less scared? No. Aiden shook his head. You make me feel hopeful. I went silent, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I was afraid if I answered too quickly, too honestly, I'd step deeper into something I wasn't sure I was okay with. But Aiden looked at me, waiting, patient, and there was something in his eyes that made me want to be more honest with myself. Aiden, I said slowly, I've never met anyone like you. He raised an eyebrow lightly. Good or bad? Good, I smiled. Very good. Aiden lowered his head, hiding the smile he couldn't hold back. His shoulders trembled slightly with shyness, which unexpectedly made me think, he's so cute I can't stand it. What are you looking at? Aiden asked, still not looking up. I'm looking at you. Aiden laughed softly. That's dangerous. Why? Because I'm not good at hiding emotions. If you look at me like that, I'll think you like me too. I stood stunned for a second. Aiden looked up, his eyes too close, too real. I swallowed. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I want to find out. Aiden didn't say anything. He just looked at me, as if listening to my heart instead of my words. And in a truly peaceful moment, he said slowly, word by word, then, let me stay by your side. That's all. The rest, let time tell. A gust of wind blew through, lightly ruffling his hair. He reached up to fix it, but I raised my hand first, tucking back a strand that fell over his forehead. Aiden's eyes widened. He didn't move. I pulled my hand back immediately, a bit awkward. Sorry, don't. Aiden lightly grasped my wrist, just for a second, then let go. I like that feeling. My wrist still tingled from that touch. Jake, Aiden said, his voice deepening. When you're ready, I want to be the one you bring home. I took a deep breath. For the first time that day, I felt like I no longer wanted to run from my own emotions. Aiden, I can't promise anything, I said very slowly. But I want. I paused. Aiden stepped half a step closer. I want to try, I said. He smiled. A soft, light smile so beautiful it made my heart tremble. And we stood there, on the small wooden bridge, two hearts beginning to step toward each other.